Welcome to episode 32. I am Danielle Amos, and this is the Prosperity Practice, the podcast that helps you live your most abundant life. Today, I have a very special guest for you. Her name is Ashley, and her and I met at a company convention of hers a few months back. And what's really cool about Ashley is she's one of those people that right away, it seemed like this material just resonated with her and she was able to apply it to her life. And she has some really cool stories. So I want to introduce you all to Ashley Fortenberry. And Ashley is with insurance. So she's going to tell you a little bit about what she does. And we'll talk about her journey. And I know you'll learn so much from her today. So welcome, Ashley. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. Appreciate that.
So tell me, when you first heard me speak, what was going through your mind? I'm curious.
I first heard you in February of this year at a convention that we had in Houston, Texas. And I was super excited because I had had such a horrible trip the night before trying to get to that convention that I had convinced myself the whole way there this was the worst travel day ever. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. I'm probably not even supposed to be on this trip. Like, this is God's way of telling me, like, you should have stayed home, girl. But then, so the very next morning when I realized that you were there, I was just super pumped. Like, oh my gosh, I would have walked to Houston to get there to hear this today, because I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was going to be day one. And that just made it all the better, right? Because I was tired from the night before, from all that horrible trip. And so it just pumped me up immediately. And I was like, okay, this is going to be great. This is going to be a great trip. Like, just started off right.
And I remember actually getting off stage and you told me you would have walked if you knew what you were going to get. So that was really cool. That's so awesome. And so for everyone listening, tell us about your role with your company so that they know what you do and a little bit more about you.
Yes. So I've been in insurance and financial services industry for about 15 years, but had lots of different roles over that span, even in a sales capacity. But my current role is I'm in charge of hiring and training brand new agents to add to the team, but then also more like a mentor. Like, I coach them, I give them, business coaching sessions, just a way to help them develop and to become successful pretty quickly, like right out of the gate.
That's awesome. And you can tell that you just love what you do. What's the favorite part of your job?
The coaching is definitely my favorite part. I think it's just that feeling of getting really excited when you take somebody, especially who's never been in this industry, who knows nothing, and all of a sudden seeing them achieve great things. That's like that feeling of accomplishment, like I had a part in that. I taught them some of that. So that's exciting. Of course, it's up to them to do it, right? But there's just that feeling of pride that I helped.
That's so cool. And you must see so many lives change through this opportunity, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a flexible career. There's so many great benefits. And when people talk about wanting work-life balance, this is definitely one of those careers that has that. But then also it's impactful in a way because we get to, create finances and wealth for other people. But then also the life insurance side of what we do is a very important piece for me. My family went through a tragedy years ago. And so life insurance and the benefits of that have been extremely important for me to help share that with others, and why it's good to have that, and what can happen if you don't, and things like that.
That's so cool. To be honest, I didn't know about the benefits of insurance before being mentored by Bob. So in his book, You Were Born Rich, he has a chapter about, the most important investment that you can make in your monthly expenses is insurance. And he also talks about, when we ask people in my industry, we go out and we ask people, what do you want? And mainly everyone, like I want to say 99.9% of the people, they say freedom, and they say financial freedom. And that means something different to everyone. But a guarantee for you to create financial freedom for your family and generations to come is through insurance. I had
Right.
no idea. And so for me, the way that I was brought up with money, that just wasn't a thing. We didn't know. So yeah, I now love the topic. So yeah, I think it's really cool what you do. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll talk about where you guys can find Ashley and get more information about that at the end of the call, you know, because I think even talking about money, that's a whole other topic that we can go into with what you know, and you can really help people. So that's really cool. I'm excited for them to reach out to you and find out more about that.
Thank you. Me too.
I invited you here today because you're one of those people, like I said, who got into this material and right away notice some changes. And I love when I see the light bulbs go off. And so I wanted to talk to you about that experience. Where were you before being introduced to this work on mindset?
I'd say I've had some little nuggets of introduction along the way over the last 2 years, probably 2.5 years. But I don't know that I was totally in the right place or right mindset to receive all of it. I've kind of just picked up bits and pieces along the way. So before getting into this specific material, I had a little bit of experience. I had, especially with some of the visualizing and the manifesting, I had kind of learned some of that. The whole paradigm shift and quantum leap thing is brand new to me. I'm loving that right now and trying to work through that and figure that out and how it applies in my life and my situation. So I'm finding books and things on that to, supplement and apply with this on top of that too. But before, I think I didn't know the control that I had or the ability that I could even play or affect this at all. It was kind of this is your circumstance, this is what life has dealt you, now just try to make the best of it kind of attitude. Being a single mom for a while, which was, my choice, but there comes struggles with some of those things. And it was just kind of like, well, this is what I've been dealt. This was the consequence of my choice. So, oh, well, too bad for you. Just, be happy about it. You made this bed, you got to lay in it. So go figure out how to make the best of it kind of attitude. So I still tried hard and worked hard, but now seeing that if I could have had the mindset and the control of you could have better things sooner, would have made a huge difference a long time ago. And so that's been very eye-opening.
Yeah, that's really funny. We hear that a lot. Like, I wish I would have been introduced to this or you years ago, or, but in everything we know the timing is perfect. You are ready now. You were ready to receive. And I would say that is true for those listening to the call. So this podcast, if you attracted this to you, just like Ashley, you attracted Houston to you, even though there were hurdles to get there, you were meant to be there. Like, there's no coincidences. I really pay attention to that. So I want to ask our listeners to pay attention to that if you're listening, continue to listen to this call, because there's something in it for you. It wouldn't have been in your earbuds today if it wasn't for you, if you didn't attract it, if there wasn't something that you needed to hear for your growth, your development, your manifesting power. I know that to be true. So you were ready when you heard it, but I agree. So many people say that they wish they would have had it earlier. What about, the idea that this is your bed and, you're meant to lay in it, deal with it. What's your attitude now?
Well, I still believe that with every decision we make, there's a consequence, right? Good or bad. But I think having the power to handle those consequences differently, and then see the good in it, right? Because even bad decisions that we've made that we might still be suffering consequence from even years down the road, now how do we see the good in it or find the positive in it? And there's something that I've learned in the material, but it's also in scripture, that says everything happens for a reason. And sometimes the things that happen to you are not specifically for you. They're so you can teach it to somebody else, right? You might experience something horrible in your life so that you can be a blessing to somebody else and teach how you got through it to help someone else through it. And so trying to go back in your mind and see the big picture of how things domino effect and play and work together all through the years now makes much more sense than it probably did before.
It's interesting. That reminds me of the Steve Jobs quote that he says, you connect the dots looking backwards, but not going forward, right? So you can see that in your own life. What have you noticed? Before this call, we were talking about how we were raised, and the effect of that. And, as kids making a decision maybe to grow up a different way. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about your upbringing and what happened to you?
Yes. And so it really struck a chord with me this morning when we had our our meeting, because you had talked about patterns of your life and some similarities that your family had gone through. And when we get stuck in a certain environment, we just assume that's the only environment there is, and you just keep living it. And so that was very similar for my family. And, my mom, she was a single mother, and she, worked her tail off to try to make ends meet, but always seemed to struggle and never seemed to truly make it, or, get past that point of just, low income, and always needed help. And to me growing up, I remember thinking how powerful and how encouraging she is to be so independent and being able to do things on her own. So that was the good that I learned from that. But the bad is that she just was kind of always in that mindset of, we'll never have enough money, we'll never be there, everything else is just wishful thinking, and she would drive past, we would go driving some Sunday afternoons, just driving, and she would take us past these big beautiful homes and these mansions, and we would dream about what it would be like to live in something like that. But in her mind, it would never ever ever happen. Mm-hmm. And so I think I grew up thinking that same thing, that some people are born into rich families and others are not, and you just you might have to marry well to ever be a part of that if you weren't born into it. And
well, I think so many people can relate to that. The idea, we can drive by, but it's not for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what do you know to be true now about money and about creating your circumstances and your wealth?
Yeah. Now I see that, I have the ability to change those outcomes, and not just with hard work. And I mean, yes, I'm still the only person so far in my family to have a college degree, and I'm the only person that moved out of state, and the only person that has achieved some extra little things. But, and I don't say that to to boast or anything, but it's more of there is some application that you have to do. You do have to work at certain things, but believing that you can do the other things and can accomplish. And why shouldn't I, right? Just because I wasn't born rich, does that mean I can't, have a good income down the road? Why not? And so I think the goal setting and the believing that I can, and the visualizing some of that has been a big piece of it. You talk also about self-image, and that was something that I enjoyed that lesson quite a bit, because it's almost like fantasizing about being a movie star, right? Fantasizing what my life could be like, and then, but why shouldn't it, right? Instead of just driving past that big house and saying, oh, that's never going to be ours, but why couldn't it, right? And so I think that's what's been very eye-opening.
And the what if, that play with that statement, what if this is my life? And this is the truth. For every person listening to this call, if you can see it in your mind, you can be, do, and have it. That is by law. So there's nothing that makes, Ashley's not different than anyone else. I'm not different than anyone else. I just was reading one of your colleagues. She just turned her yearly income into her monthly. I just saw that post in the group. Wow. And that's the second one this month. That's the second person in your company that's done that this month. And what's so cool is as Ashley says it, she says, I'm not here to boast, but she's here to show you what's possible. If she can be thinking this way and she can remove the doubt, so can you. And so what are some of the things that you experienced right when you jumped into the program? And I imagine, maybe even tell people what happened when you jumped in to work with me. Was it a quick yes, or did you have some doubt?
Well, not doubt, but I guess it was more like fear of, do I have the time to commit to this? Do I really have a place to put one more thing on my plate? And how am I going to have time to read through this and study? I don't even like to read, I mean, it was a lot of those, my mind trying to talk me out of things, but I had already experienced some little bits and pieces along the way that were very exciting. So I knew I wanted to do it. It was just trying to like make sure I could. So I was not mentally, I was like, oh, you need to do this. Like, yes, it was in my heart that, oh yes, the decision is, we're doing it. But my mind and my checkbook were like, okay, do we do it today? Do we do it next week? Can we do this today? I don't know. It was kind of back and forth. And,
Yeah.
And, I'd say generally I'm a fairly quick decision maker. I don't ponder on things too long, but I'm a window shopper. I love to go and just kind of experience things and go through the mall and look at all the pretty stuff. And then I'll go back around and go back and buy what I felt like was a good deal or a good purchase or whatever. So I guess in my head, I was kind of window shopping it before I actually like buckled down and said, okay, we're doing it,
Yeah.
But I've noticed lots of things actually since starting it. I've always kind of believed, there is no real coincidence. Things happen for a reason, but just being more open to noticing other things that I probably would have blown them off before as not a big enough sign, right? I think we're all expecting like billboards as we drive by that says, this is your sign. Yeah, blinking lights, like turn right here to have the best life, and so I was the same way.
Firecrackers. This is it. This is it. Wake up.
Yeah, it's like
this is the call for everyone to say, this is your sign. Listen up, listen up. Ashley's got news.
Yeah. So I used to say I was a realist. I'm not a negative person. I was a realistic person, right? Because I wanted to see the good in things. But if it didn't happen, I could be realistic about why something wasn't achievable or why it wasn't happening, etc. Well, now I've learned that just feels so negative. Even when people say, oh, I'm just being realistic. Well, not really. You're being realistic about what has happened before, but is that really realistic about what can happen down the road, right? But so noticing things, little signs and little things now, my eyes are more open. One of the things that I had manifested in my mind a while back, but before I was really truly believing that manifesting was possible, was this mental image of a bluebird, the blue jays, the blue and white ones. So pretty. And I kept thinking, okay, if I'm a realist now, so if this stuff really works, then I'm going to see this bird, right? I kept envisioning this whole beautiful bird in my mind. And I was looking everywhere as I'm driving down the road, going to work, looking all over the place and just hoping and praying for this bird to show up so I could promise myself, okay, it really works. It's true. Nowhere was it happening. And then all of a sudden, about a week or two later, I open up my phone, pull up Facebook, and the very first picture I see is from one of my very good friends. And she posted a picture of this gorgeous blue jay in her backyard on the brand new bird feeder she bought. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Does that count? I don't know if it counts. I mean, because it's not my house, it's her house. And it was on Facebook, it's a picture. It wasn't real life. Is this the same thing? And I was going back and forth in my head about, okay, don't be stupid. It's not, that's not realistic, blah, blah, blah. It's not it. But I was hoping it was it, Well, then a few days later, I'm driving up to my office and two beautiful blue jays flew right in front of my windshield. And I got so super excited. I'm like, it works. Okay, there's the birds. That's the ones I wanted. That's the ones. And so if you fast forward a little bit, as I've kind of you go through slumps, right? You go through periods of where you're believing and you're not believing, and you're believing and you're not believing, or you're seeing progress and you're not seeing progress. So I was having some downtime right before the whole quarantine happened. We were still in the office, and it was one of those moods where I was like, I'm not really feeling it today. I'm not really believing, but I want to. I need a sign. And I kept hearing this tap, like, on my window of my office, and I looked outside. I don't see anything. And a few minutes later, I hear it again, and I'm looking all over the place and I don't see it. And I finally had to get up out of my chair and look back behind my desk because the window goes all the way down to the floor. And there was the blue jay sitting right there on my windowsill, tapping on my window, almost as if like, hello, I'm trying to get you to notice me. And I just started crying. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is such a weird sign, such a weird sign. So I was super excited. I ran down the hall to tell somebody who has no idea what I'm even talking about. And they were like, huh, well, that's cool. Like I have no idea what I'm talking about. So fast forward even further, here we are now. We're at, COVID world, and we're all stuck at home. And I had a day like that not so long ago. And I thought, sure would like to be back at my office right now so I could see those birds again. Because that's the only place I've seen them so far was around my office. And I'll be darned, I went for a walk with my fiance that evening, and there was one sitting on the sidewalk down the street from my house. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there it is. I mean, it's just so weird how, even the material says the things that you think about show up, right? So better be thinking about good things. But there it was. All I had to do was wish for it, and it showed up again. And I was like, man, this is so crazy. Okay, now how can I make the other things happen? But.
And that's the thing. So Ashley, if you can accept, like, as easy as manifesting the sight of a blue jay, you can manifest the parking spot, the $10, the 10,000, the 10 million. See, nothing's big or small, just our mind makes it so. So, and what's really cool is you were asking for and praying for signs that this material works and that you are fully in control. And what you think about, thoughts become things. So you attracted that to you. And you're open to believing it, and you wanted that experience, right? So there's an element of asking, like you have to ask. And the universe provides when you're open.
Yeah, I think that's been a big part of it, is just being open to notice and open to letting myself agree that those are signs, instead of trying to be like, no, that's not a good enough sign. I can't really classify that as a sign. Like, what's your level of category for it to be a good sign, right? And
Yeah.
Why shouldn't it be?
Yeah, totally. And I often say evidence, like look for that evidence that you're moving closer towards your goal. Like the universe, God loves to be acknowledged. And so like choose to look for that evidence, and you will find it. And then that builds your belief and your faith as you see it. And as that happens, when you're asking, as your faith is increased, then and you get in the habit of just like being open to receive. And it's really, really cool. I know you had mentioned on another call that you had some experiences, some wins right in the beginning around self-image and some of the other principles in our work. Is there anything that comes up? Like if you think of where you were before and then what's happened, and sort of it's not magic, but it certainly can feel like magic, can it?
It does, for sure. I think writing things out definitely has been a big piece of this because I can envision a lot of things. I have a really good imagination and I'm pretty creative. So in my mind, I can envision a lot of things, but making myself write it down as if it's true right now, learning how to do that. But it has actually worked. I mean, even there have been, meetings that I was super anxious about or not sure how it was going to go or how this conversation with this person in upper management was going to be. And just writing out on a piece of paper, just even moments before the meeting of this is how the meeting will go, and just saying things, positively about the experience I wanted to have with it. And then sure enough, it happened. And I think some of it is just because I put myself in the right mindset to accept the good things and not be scared and thinking it was going to be something negative or, harsh or whatever. But it was like, wow, that actually happened. And so again, it was just that practice of writing it out and writing what I wanted, what was the result that I wanted from this, and then believing that it could actually end up that way. That has happened several times lately. And so that's been very exciting.
That's so cool. Well, what's true is that most people use their imagination against themselves. So what you're doing is really engaging the mental muscles that we teach, right? And thinking results. And you're using your tool of writing to focus on what you want and how that would feel. And so then you're using your imagination for you. And you mentioned, like, if you would think of the example of the meeting with upper management, usually probably you would worry and about some certain thing. And then like, that's what we manifest, right? So the truth is we're manifesting all the time. But now what you're learning is how to manifest what you want rather than what you were worrying about or by default. And so it can feel like magic when a person starts getting those results, but there's no magic. Everything's happening by law. This is
Right.
how it works. Your thoughts become things by law. Thoughts become things, thoughts become things, thoughts become things, and that's your control. Really cool. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that you've experienced that you think would help other people listening, maybe just getting into this material?
I think the crossover from one part of your life into another is also what's cool about this. You may get into it thinking that you have a specific business goal in mind, but you'll notice how it crosses over into your personal life as well, and vice versa. Just like I talked about in the beginning, how was I going to find time to actually read this stuff and do the homework and the studying and all that? Because I'm busy enough and I have kids. Like, please don't give me one more thing to put on my plate, right?
Yeah.
But in making myself get up early in the morning and do, the reading and the assignments, I'm already up then. So now, because I'm up, I can go and I can do my workout and I can get that done, and then still, go get ready for work for my day. So it's bleeding over into my fitness and in my personal goals that I wanted as well. Even though that was not the intention when I originally signed up. I was just thinking business, just thinking income, just thinking certain financial goals and things that I had in mind. But it's working in other areas too. And so that's, nothing but beneficial all around.
That's so cool. And I think right away, one of the things we hear from people, especially women, is how much more confident they feel as a result of the work. And you can see why, because it does lead into other self-image work, the fitness side, like just taking care of yourself, because we go in the work to our goal achieved. So who is the woman? Like, who is Ashley with her goal achieved? And then you get to act and be from that place, which includes, in your case, waking up early, going to the gym, making sure that you have enough time. Speaking of time, have you noticed that you've become more effective in the time that you have?
Yes, I noticed that, especially with reading, because like I said, I was never somebody who enjoyed reading for leisure. And so having to read something would take me a long time. So reading one chapter of a book might take me forever to get through. And so even over the last, year, as I've started getting more and more just personally interested in learning this stuff, I'm enjoying the reading now. And I've even adapted, like there are certain things that I've done, the audio books, where if I don't have time to open a book and hold it in my hand and read it, I can listen to it while I'm putting on my makeup and things like that, so because I'm now interested and I want to learn it. And so finding a way to figure out how to get it done somehow. Right. And so I've actually probably read over 10 books in the last year and a half. And that's a big accomplishment for me. So people that are avid readers are going, are you kidding? I read 10 books a week. But for me, that was a big deal because it's just now it's something I'm interested in hearing more and more about. So
that's really cool. What's one thing that a concept or an idea that's really changed your business or your results, maybe your financial results? Do you have one thing that has been key for you?
That's hard because there's so many great things. It's not just one, it's, it's all of it together. But I'd say, visualizing yourself in the goal right now and not like, oh, I can't wait until this happens, or, I'm going to buy this or that when, but thinking that I already have it and being that right now, and just being open to seeing myself as already accomplished. And so, a lot of the talk that you gave when you were saying, be her now, like that is something that I keep reminding myself of. Why do I need to wait until I hit the income goal of whatever it is before I can act or be or dress or, pretend to be this person, right? I'm already her. It's just a more improved her, right? And so like, it's okay to go ahead and be her now while I'm developing, right? So that has been really, really eye-opening for me.
That's awesome. And what about with your team? How have you used this material to coach and benefit your team?
So it's actually, you don't even realize it. I will catch myself saying things sometimes and I'm like, huh, I think Danielle said that yesterday. Like it just comes out, you just, to leave a positive impression on other people, you don't even realize it sometimes. And I think that's super exciting because, one of the girls that introduced me to you she was doing it to me, and I don't even know that she realized it. And it just felt so good to be around her and talk to her because of that. And so I'm hoping that my team is feeling that same thing, that I'm encouraging them, motivating them. But I've made them do vision boards here recently and talking about their goals and experiencing what that's like. And, some of it just bleeds over unintentionally. But more than anything, just trying to inspire them instead of just, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But, being more positive about that and hoping that it comes across as inspiring and motivational leadership and not, oh, because she's my boss, she says I have to do this kind of thing. I'm hoping it leaves a positive impact to where it feels good to them and they want to do more, inspired actions, right? Like not just a duty of the job, but I'm inspired to do this action because it makes me more successful.
Yeah, that's really cool. I I've seen, leaders put in that impression of increase into what they do. And like, I know for sure you're such a gift to your team with that focus of leaving people better than what you found them. Like, that is true leadership. And there aren't enough people out there in the world that are really, really doing that. And so I acknowledge you for taking that on and committing to be that person. Here's the thing, imagine like a world where that's how leadership is. It's always around like helping that person. I heard today actually on my in my studies, like a good leader is someone that has the people that are following them like themselves, rather than the leader care about what they think of the leader. It's all about like, how do I have the people that I'm leading love themselves, believe in themselves? And so if you're constantly breathing life into them and leaving them better than what you found them, that's what you're doing. You're being one of those leaders. And the world always has a place for good leadership. And so I love that that's who you are, Ashley. It's so cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you for joining us, and for all of those people that are listening. If you can relate to Ashley's story, maybe you thought you were dealt a certain hand of cards and that you had to stay, or you just had to deal with the cards that you were dealt. Maybe you can relate to her story that way. And you can see that she's now in control and she's getting better. She acknowledged that she's learning each and every day. Like, this is an ongoing journey. And the cool thing is in our community, there are people like Ashley, like myself, that are committed each day to stepping into who we truly are. And it's just really like we get to lock arms and do it and know that we're together. And then we get to go bless those people that are in our lives. For you, it's your team, your family. So those that resonate with you, Ashley, I want them to go find you on Facebook, and we'll post your business page. And maybe there's something around money that you can teach them, and even creating an extra stream of income by working with you and your team. I'd love for them to reach out to you for that reason. And if something resonated around, maybe you've been listening to this and you were looking for a sign, like Ashley was, that this may be for you, let this be your sign. Listen for something that resonates, and know it resonates with you for a reason. I love what Ashley said when she said she would have walked to hear this information. Like, that's how important it is. It's life changing, because for the first time for most of us, we feel like we know that we are in control. And when we take that kind of responsibility, we also understand that because we're now responsible for results, we can literally be, do, and have anything. And I'm just so grateful, Ashley, that you said yes, that you're part of the community, and that your willingness to share with everyone here today and share your story. Do you have
Well,
anything that you'd like to add?
I'm just grateful for you and for all of the information and, you know, the love and everything else that comes with it. I mean, it definitely feels nothing but warm and fuzzy. So, you know, those people who might be a little bit, you know, on the fence about it, I mean, it feels good. And there has been nothing about it that made me feel like, oh, this is not worth it. You know, I mean, every single thing has been like, wow, okay, yeah, okay, I get that. And it all has been nothing but improvement and feels good. So
Love it. Love it. Well, I acknowledge your commitment to yourself, to your team, to your family. I know you're just getting started. And so I'm just so proud of you. And for all those listening, thank you. If this resonated, or maybe you know someone that this would resonate with, please share it. Help us get the word out.